Yo, what's up, everyone? It's Rudy from Drinks and a Movie Podcast. It's New Year's Eve. We're about to get into 2025. So today, I just wanted to break the seal on this new WLW and just share what I felt were my favorite movies of the year. Okay, and just shout out some of the special guests I've had on the show and how it's grown over the last year. So stay tuned. So thanks for joining me, everybody. So first off, I just want to give a big thank you to anybody that's kind of been new to the show this year, or anyone that started watching Drinks and Movie when it first appeared. And I think it was 2019 that I started. If you stuck with me this far, or if you're new and you dug it and you've stuck with me, I really appreciate it. So just thanks for being here. Yeah, this is a little bit impromptu, but I know everyone's coming out with their list for their favorite movies and favorite whiskeys and this and that. So got off work early and just thought I'd do my own little version of this. So as I let this open up, which by the way, I'm super lucky to have this William Larue Weller. This is the 2024 Expression Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. One of the most sought after bottles and something that is a total bucket list item for me. Shout out to Louis Liquor in Azusa. I've been talking about their stuff a lot, and then they, helped me make sure I acquired this. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. I know some people don't like to throw the stores out there, but I feel I'm going to do that. So as I let this open up, before I get into the movies, I just want to talk about some of the special guests and shout out some folks that have come through the show for the first time. I had my friend Jordan, an old high school buddy that came on for the Grindhouse episode we did, his first time on the show. We've had a frequent guest in Jocelyn, Glamour Beauty School. Jocelyn's been coming on and did some of the holiday horror with Carissa and I. And again, a special thanks to Carissa for just doing episodes with me all through October for the horror movie kind of season, even though every season's horror movie season. So thank you all for joining. And some more shout outs. I had Becky Smith from Constellation Brands, who's come to rep Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery and Casa Noble Tequila and Midwinter Night's Dram. She came on once again earlier in the year to talk about High West's whiskey expressions and share some new products. So that was a really fun episode. It was good to have her back again. I want to shout out Brandon Cox, the cinematographer of the movie Werewolves, which just came out earlier this month, and I believe is streaming right now. I think it's now on streaming. So if you didn't get to catch it in theaters, you can go check that out. We had a really great discussion just on cinematography in general, and particularly that movie, and how he approached doing the creature effects and all that good stuff. As well as another special guest that we had earlier in the year was Alec Gillis, just world-class special effects creature creator. Tremors, Aliens, Prey, Smile 2, all that stuff. He did everything. Just look him up. Again, that was a 2-part episode we did, so if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. That's one of my favorite episodes I've done so far, and we got to shoot in his studio space, so we were surrounded by a bunch of his creations and everything, and it was very incredible. So was very stoked to have Alec on the show as well, and hopefully we'll get him back sometime to talk about whatever's to come in the future, and maybe even some other movies that we didn't get to mention in that very long interview we did. The next shout out I want to give is Kenneth Castillo. This was, I believe, back in May. Kenneth Castillo is a writer-director, just works independently and has, I think, 6 or 7 feature films under his belt. And it's just a very real dude. One of the best, I think, kind of discussions I've had. I try not to do everything so interview, question, answer. So I like to call it conversations or discussion. And that was one of the best ones so far. I think anybody that's into filmmaking, if you're an aspiring or upcoming director or filmmaker in any way, you should definitely watch that episode and listen to what he has to say. He's really been through it, and he's come up this indie route and is kind of, is just, putting in work. And there's some truths in that conversation that might come across harsh, but I think it's something that everybody needs to hear. And it's coming from a very real place and someone that's got a ton of experience. So Kenneth, thank you for coming on the show, and hopefully we can get you sometime in the future as well. There's a couple other folks that I've met through Instagram and other podcasts that I want to shout out that I haven't had them on this show yet, so we're definitely looking to do that in 2025. But I got to throw a shout out to Matt and Mark Movie Show. They had me on when one of them was kind of, I guess, not around for a period. I don't remember, this may have been March or so, but I went on and we talked about the movie Dr. Giggles, which was the first time I'd seen it. So I was like a guest co-host on that for a night, and it was a really fun time. I love listening to their show, so definitely got to get them over here on Drinks in a Movie. Maybe I'll send them a sample of some whiskey or something. And another show is the This Seat's Taken podcast. Rob Miranda, I guested on his show twice. We talked about, I think it was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire the first time, and then I came on again to chat about Blood In, Blood Out. So that's someone that, he's fairly new. I think he started his podcast earlier this year, which is always cool to see. I remember when I first started this out, and how kind of daunting it can be and how daunting it still is. So shout out to Rob, The Seat's Taken. Go check him out as well. You can find these two shows like pretty much anywhere you podcast. They're well worth listening to if you like movie talk. So before I talk about some of my favorite films of the year, let's go ahead and try this William Larue Weller from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. So this is coming in, I think, 12 years old or just over 12 years old. It's named after who they say, according to the story, is I believe the first person or one of the early people to use wheat as a flavoring grain for bourbon instead of rye. So typically bourbon is at minimum 51% corn. Then you have rye as kind of the primary flavoring grain, and then a little bit of malted barley, just more so I think for like the chemical process for everything to work out the way it needs to. So this person swapped out the rye with wheat, and you've heard us talk about it before. The wheat, a lot of people will say it's sweeter. It really kind of mellows it out because since rye is a more spicier grain, the wheat is a lot softer, okay, a little, smoother, you might say, so it allows some of those sweet notes to come out a little bit more than perhaps in a rye whiskey. So you've heard about Weller if you've seen like Weller Special Reserve and Antique 107 and Weller 12, Weller Foolproof. This is just another version of that. They're all from Buffalo Trace, and it'd be interesting to one day put this against some of the Pappy Van Winkle lineup, because I'm pretty sure they're all in the same family. Like I've heard people refer to Weller as being like Pappy Light, because there's the 12 and the cask strength and all that. If anyone's got more details on that, let me know, but I haven't done much research on that because I'm not so sure I'll ever buy any Pappies, but we'll see, who knows. Never thought I'd get this. So on the nose, you definitely get the wheated bourbon sense. It's not coming out to me in a really big or grand way. It just smells like really good bourbon, like the quintessential, notes, like the caramel. I definitely smell the wheat. Maybe like a hint of a cinnamon, which is kind of interesting. A little bit of the oak, but not too much. Like I don't know that it would smell much different from my Weller Antique 107 over there. And by the way, this is cask strength, coming in at 125.8 proof. Uncut and unfiltered. So yeah, well, I'm gonna go in for the taste. Cheers. So that's possibly the most, and I've had this before. I don't think I've had this year's, but I've had last year's for sure, and it was definitely one of the best bourbons I've ever had. But this one right here might be the most viscous, just kind of thick bourbon I have ever tasted. The moment I'm trying to see if I can get a look at the legs, but I'm using this wacky Crystal Glencairn, so it might be kind of tough. But yeah, I'd say this has got to be the most viscous as soon as it hit my tongue. I like to let it sit for like 6 to 8 seconds the first time, and I kind of roll it around to acclimate and coat the palate. And then I don't really, give any thoughts until I take the second sip, because I think that's a little more fair. But both were super viscous, thick, almost like it's still kind of making my mouth water a little bit. And that's not to say that it's super dry and tannic, but yeah, the mouthfeel was just really crazy. This might need a little more time to open up. It came in pretty hot too. It is the first bourbon of the day. I should have warmed up on something else. That's what I normally do, but yeah, it's super dark, rich, like a super dark chocolate covered cherry with that oak, man, just with a lot of that oak presence coming through. It's very punchy. The finish is long and lingering, and I am getting a little bitterness on the back now though, but it's really good. I think this one probably needs a little more time, but that's all I can really speak to on it right now. I will say, after reviewing the 2024 George T. Stagg recently, that one hit better for me. I was thinking maybe this one would overtake it, but we'll see. With some airtime and over time, maybe I'll do them side by side at some point in the future. But Yeah, that's stellar. Thank you very much, Louise Liquor, for helping me acquire this, and it's just been a good year for whiskey for me. I've been super lucky and fortunate this year. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into, we got those shout outs. Let's get into my favorite movies so far that I can recall of this year. I was trying to look up a list of every movie that had come out, but it was way too long, and it made me realize that I hadn't gone to the theater, I think, this year as much as I wanted to and hoped. Again, there's a period of like half the year where I was wildly busy, and so there's a lot of things that I missed, which is unfortunate. But I'm just gonna go off of, I didn't write a list down, but just everything that comes to memory and movies that I had seen more than once. So no particular order, but I will give it number one at the end. So first off, I'm gonna say Doom Part 2. I haven't seen it since it was in theaters, but I think I saw it 2 or 3 times. I liked the first one, and the second one, just its cinematography and its scope and its epicness and the music and everything, but I enjoyed all those aspects of it. I remember seeing it at the Vista on a 70mm print, and my seats were shaking, and it was a really great experience. And then I saw it a couple more times in theaters after that. But it's to the point where I'm almost afraid to watch it at home at any point, because I think it's just such a epic that it needs that theater, environment. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just throw that on the list. That's the earliest from this year that I can remember, and I saw it more than once, so I definitely liked it. This wouldn't typically, this would be low as far as a favorite, like maybe let's call it an honorable mention. But I have to say it, I think the Marvel everything has sucked for the last few years, as I think we can all agree. But Deadpool and Wolverine I found to be a really fun, entertaining movie. I didn't go watch it a bunch of times. I was never even a fan of the other 2 movies. I didn't see them until the week that Deadpool 3 was going to come out, and I thought, all right, let's just check it out. Let's see what's good. Probably going to blow this. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I think Hugh Jackman still has it. I think he steals the show with his performance. And the thing I like about it most is that it was able to blend, Wolverine's drama and just his internal rage and everything he's been through with the comedy. Like, there's a couple great monologues and scenes of the 2 of them where he's just getting really emotional and he really delivers. And somehow, within the bigger picture of the movie and all its crazy humor, it worked. And I really appreciate that. That's not easy to do. So from a filmmaking perspective, I just thought that was really great. And that alone kind of gets it onto my list for, some of my best of the year, I guess you could say. The next one I'm going to say, everybody, is Terrifier 3. Okay, that just came out October 12th. I think it came out on my birthday, or the 11th. I don't know, something like that. But I went to see it, that midnight. I thought it was great. I know a lot of people still prefer the second one. I think Terrifier 3 is the best one. For me, I love the Christmas environment. I love that it's breaking records and made all kinds of money, and that it's just a fun, crazy gore fest, and that people are out here supporting it. It feels like the horror movie community, horror movie film fans are like the sole people kind of keeping theaters alive at this point. The fact that it's able to break records and be what it is and know what it is, but, surpass Joker 2 and whatnot. And, what's that going to mean for the career of everybody involved, as well as the director, Damien Leone. And I think that's really exciting, and I can't wait to see what all those people do next and what Terrifier 4 is going to have in store. And, it's really encouraging for me as someone who loves horror movies and would love to make a feature horror film someday that, there's still a big base of fans. And yeah, not everything has to be, I hate the term elevated horror. I think it's stupid, but like that, you can just have a fun, scary movie that also has a lot of humor and is somehow like has some goofiness thrown in with its ultra violence. Like, I don't know. I just like that there's still an audience for that. And hey man, sometimes you need some junk food to go with your vegetables. That's how I see it. Some people love the Marvel shit. I like the Terrifier movie, so that goes right there. Up next is going to be Ty West's Maxine. I loved it. That also, as far as that trilogy, the X trilogy goes, that might be my favorite of the 3. Saw it a couple times in theaters. Watched it at the Vista, of course, on 35mm, as you should. And I just loved every moment of it. I loved its kind of giallo influence, which I think is great, coming off the 70s Texas Chainsaw vibe of the first movie, and then the Technicolor, you know, Gone with the Windish vibe of the second film, and then now this one, which is that 80s slasher Vice Squad, but also, you know, maybe deep red kind of, you know, vibe. Love those movies. That one is definitely one of my favorites of the year for sure. The last one I'm gonna say, and this is number one favorite movie of the year for sure, is JT Molnar's Strange Darling that came out in, I believe it was August. Saw it a few times, you know, watched it again at the Vista in 35mm print, and it's a must-see. If you haven't seen it yet, just go watch it. Trust me, I've been able to turn a few people onto it, and they all loved it. Carissa and I covered it right after we watched it. That was the first time I had done an episode of the podcast where we did a podcast episode like right out the theater. We got out, went to the pad, and just recorded on our phones. So the audio is maybe not the best, but we just had a lot to talk about with the movie and wanted to share it. I also did the movie on the other show I co-host called The Real Generation Gap. That's a YouTube show that you can go find if you're interested. I also have a new episode coming out soon that was supposed to drop in December, but had to get pushed back, where I have a couple producer types, people that worked on the production of Strange Darling, so they have a lot of insight and shared a lot of stories about the making of the film. So that will be coming out in the next, hopefully, few weeks here. So when you do go see it, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, and then you can come back and listen to our first impressions, and then you can see the new episode that's going to drop pretty soon with a couple of the people that were actually involved in the making of the film, which is always cool. So hoping to get a lot more guests and collaborate with more podcasters and whatnot in the coming, you know, year. If you all have any feedback on things you'd like to see, leave comments on the Instagram, email me at drinksandmoviepod@gmail.com. Yeah, just do all that. So I'm interested to hear. Do you want to see more whiskey and drinking stuff videos like I've been doing? I've been trying to step up my setup here and do a little more YouTube video content, whether it's movie related or purely blind tasting and drink reviews, because I just think that stuff fun. There's some food content I want to do with different filmmakers, and a lot of just ideas to kind of expand the brand, I guess you can call it. But it's all just for fun, so that stuff happens slow. It takes time. You know, I don't get paid to do any of this. One more shout out I do have to give is to my friend Pranav, who did the new graphics and the new logo for the YouTube videos and for the Instagram and all that good stuff. So thank you, Pranav, for doing that. Really kind of stepped up the aesthetic of the whole game here. So really appreciate that. So cheers to you, my friend. Man, that's a thick one. That's good though. It is opening up in a nice way. It is just some rich, dark, like oak and cherry and wheat dark chocolate. Yeah, William Larue Weller, everyone. So that's a wrap on this one, the end of 2024. Have a safe, fun, and happy new year. And yeah, we'll see you in 2025 with the next episodes that are ready to go. Okay, cheers.